You know, when you're growing up in the hood, a lot of people don't understand the hood. It's like my mom was making $1 an hour. My dad was making like $1 an hour working for Hogan and Son Packing House at Vero Beach. How do you take care of your family? You know, my dad had a 3rd grade education. He couldn't read or write, couldn't even spell his own name. My mom dropped out in 7th grade. So I was getting D's and F's. So many kids in the hood. There are so many kids in the hood, man, Daddy, that's growing up the same way I grew up. That's why I've always wanted to inspire them. I don't want to become a product of my environment. I want my environment to become a product of who I am. Mm. Nobody would you don't understand. The only way you will understand a person growing up in the hood is if you grew up in the hood.
Right.
Like what you just mentioned. You know, you see somebody get shot, that's common. You see somebody get robbed, that's common. You see burglary, that's common. You see stabbing, that's common. You ain't got to take my word. Get my mom on here. Mm-hmm. She'll tell you. It's just like my sergeant. He called you a brother that I love, man. You know? Mm-hmm. Always inspired me. Ray, but he'll tell you, Danny, I fought with the best, man. There's nothing coward about me. I'm humble as a dove. I'm vicious as a lion. And I'm like an eagle. I don't run away from storms. I go into storms. But I thank God. I thank God today. I'm that same kid that came out the hood, that made it out of Gifford, out of Fort Lauderdale. And look at me today. 21 years. My wife and kids, we've lost everything. Home, cars, finances. I couldn't even feed my family. But guess what? I went to bed, when I was a young kid growing up, I went to bed with a ketchup sandwich, a mayonnaise sandwich, drinking sugar water, eating macaroni and cheese out of the can. So to be honest with you, listen, I've already been there. So people's asking me, man, how is it that you was able to get through this situation? How? It's because of my upbringing. It's because of my upbringing. Because Danny, to be honest with you, you can't take a kid who've lived a lavish lifestyle and put him in the hood and expect for that kid to live.
Right.
So to be honest with you, listen, the triumphs, the trouble, the trials and tribulation that they put us through, I've seen it. I watched it from 8 years of age. You ain't got to take my word. If you ever talk to my mother, ask her. I had a friend of mine named Travis, and Travis spoke to my mom on the 3-way. And I remember when I was 12 years of age, right? I had this gentleman that actually I got into a fight with. He was 17. We was on the school bus, and we was cracking on each other's mother. And all of a sudden, I got the best of them. And the 17-year-old gonna tell me,
well, you guys are like yo mama jokes.
Yeah, your mama got, you know, your mama used a straightening comb to comb my hair. You know, we came up with like mother jokes and stuff, and right. You know, we laughed. So I got the best of him that day. So here come this 17-year-old gonna tell me, man, legit, go sit down. I said, who you talking to? He said, I'm talking to you. I said, you can't be talking to me, man. He was like, what? Man, you ain't gonna do nothing to me. You ain't gonna do nothing to me. And of course he came, he hit me, and we started fighting. And we fought until the bus stopped. And when I got off the bus, I went home. I thank God I didn't tell my dad, but I told my mother. And you know what my mom did? My mom went into the kitchen and she got the biggest butcher knife, okay, which we refer to as a steak knife now. She went and got the biggest butcher knife with a brown handle that she can find, and she wrapped it up in a towel. And she said, you come on. And we went to his house and knocked at his door. When his mom answered the door, my mom said, is your son John Thomas here? She said, no, ma'am, but how can I help you? My mom said, you can't help me. I want to talk to your son. Well, I'm glad he wasn't there that day, because had he been there, trust me, my mom would have put that knife in his body and I'd have been putting foot in his butt.
What was your relationship like with your father growing up?
I didn't really have a personal relationship with my dad, but ever since I was like 6 years of age, my dad always taught me how to fight. So I've been fighting ever since I was about 6. And, my dad was the kind of person, man, that I never understood him, because my mom is like 4'11", maybe 120, 130 pounds. And my dad was like maybe 6 foot, 6'1", 250, 260 pounds. And he would beat my mom to a pulp, man, And there was time that he ran.
In front of you?
Oh, absolutely, in front of me. And there was time that he would run us out the house. We had to stay out the house until like maybe 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, until he actually fell asleep. My dad shot his best friend because they said he touched my mom's leg. And when my dad saw it, saw him under the tree, according to the information that was given to me, the tree is a place where they go and play cards, dominoes, and that sort of thing. They drink or whatnot. So, of course, my dad went looking for him. And when my father found him, according to what the information my mom and them gave to me, is that he asked him, he said, hey, Knott, did you touch my wife's leg? And he said, if I touched her, what you going to do? So my dad said, if you tell me you touched my wife's leg, I'm going to shoot you. And he said, yeah, I touched her. And of course, my dad pulled out a chrome, he put out a chrome 32 with a pearl handle. And I know from being in law enforcement that he jerked the trigger when he went to shoot. He didn't squeeze the trigger, he jerked the trigger. So the first round went past him. He said, you didn't shoot me. He said, no, I didn't get you that time, but I'm gonna definitely get you this time. The second shot hit him up in his neck area. My dad served 8 years in prison for that.
Wow. How old were you when that happened?
I was young, man. I was a young kid, like, I don't know how, maybe 9, 10, 11, 12, I don't know, somewhere around up in there.
Wow. So from a young age, your personal experience with law enforcement, with cops, was just dealing with your parents and kind of intervening in what was going on inside your home.
That's correct. They had like 4 or 5 carloads. Every time they came to my house, there was 4 or 5 carloads of cops coming to my home for my father. There was a gentleman by the name of Mr. Leon Foster. He was a deputy sheriff for the Indian River County Police Sheriff Department. And he always came with the other cops because he was the only one that could really control, calm my father down. Mm-hmm. My family fought with the cops. Danny, between 11 and 13 years of age, I watched my family engage in a physical altercation with the cops. And I said, why are they beating up on the cops, man? The cops are good people. This is what I'm saying to myself. And I know, forget it, they had my cousin handcuffed in the back seat of the car. Her name is Christine, but we call her Bap. And of course, my family had water hose that they was beating the cops with the water hose and everything. Good
Lord.
And I'm saying to myself, why are they fighting with the police, man? The police are good people. Because I just remember them coming to my home at 8 or 9 years of age that I can recall when there was complete chaos in my home, and how they pulled me aside and began to counsel me and saying, hey, listen, Ray, come here, little man, let me talk to you. And I'll never forget that the longest day I live.